Assalamu alaikum. My name is Ahmed, and in stepforward.com series of understanding PHP, our next task is to go for databases. PHP basically has the ability to connect to a large number of almost all the databases can be connected using PHP. However, generally PHP and MySQL databases are used to build programs unless there's a different requirement. There are other common databases also, but we will stick our focus to MySQL databases. Furthermore, this tutorial is not meant to teach you MySQL databases. It is assumed that you already have a concept of databases, and if you don't, you can refer to the other tutorials. There are three ways of connecting to MySQL. The old method is using the PHP's MySQL extension. The other is to use the PHP's MySQL I extension, and basically MySQL simple extension provides procedural ways, that is methods by which we can connect to a database. But MySQL provides procedural as well as object-oriented ways of connecting. Plus, it also gives us the choice of using prepared statements, and it is of course secure as compared to the previous one. And there's another approach, a very popular approach, that is PHP data objects, but that will be covered in some other future lectures. So let's start programming with our databases. I have my text editor available and my Firefox browser, and this is my page. For this tutorial I have created a page and called it add.php and opened it up in my text editor. But before going for databases, first we need to create a database. For that, in my PC, Ubuntu PC, MySQL is already installed and everything is basically configured. So I'm going to open the terminal. Let's zoom in it a bit and let's connect to our local database. This is the command I'm using to connect to my local database, MySQL, and the user will be root, password will be asked in the next line. And for password, so it is connected to my database, and now what I need to do is I need to create a database now. So I'll give the command create database, and let's create a simple fictitious database for stepforward.com. Okay, database has been created. Now let's start using this database, and now let's create a table. Let's say table is called posts, and what is in this table? We have a post ID, data type will be int, and we want this ID to be incremented automatically. Incremented fields, automatic incremental fields must be a key, so this will be our primary key. Then I also need to give it a title. For instance, this is a basic tutorial, so 50 is enough. And then we also need to give a date. Data type will be date, simple date, and then we also will give its content, post content, and this will also be a varchar of some bigger value. So table has been created, and now let's select static from post. Of course it is empty, and let's have a description of this table available to us. Okay, that's good. Now let's start programming. I go back to my text editor, and what I need to do is in this tutorial we will focus on adding records to database. So I have already created some tags, and I'll make this page basically a form so that user is able to enter some values. So I'll just paste those values. A new post will be created. Go back to Firefox, refresh my page, and this is this is how my page will look. I have a form field that will post back to this same page using the post method. I have a text input field named title. I have a text area field named body, and of course this is the submit button. So the page will repost to itself. So we will start by first of all checking that if any data was in fact received. On this post. So we'll say that if post title. So what about this post? We need to check that if it is set, and we also want to check for the other field, and that is call it content, and let's call it over here content also. So what will happen that let's use the die method, and this is a good time to introduce it. What die function does is it will terminate the remaining script, and if any parameter is provided, it will echo it out. So for instance, data was posted. Go back. If I open this page and if I use the create button, on the next page data was posted and the script simply dies over here. It won't go further. But if this data was not provided, this whole part will be skipped and the whole page will be run. So this part will only be available if the user visited the page originally, and if the data was posted, he won't see this form. In fact, this part will run. So the next task is to assign these values to some variables. So I'll say post title and post content. Something wrong with my typing today. Now we need to create a connection with the database. So now remember, we are only going to use MySQL I extension. So it is basically an object oriented. It of course provides procedural ways also, but object oriented approach is best. So of course we note that objects always are created using the new keyword followed by the name of the class, and that will be a constructor call basically. So MySQL I, this is the call, and it will of course return the object. So we'll store that object in the link variable. This function expects 4 parameters, and the first is the host address, the IP address or just the host name. So this is on my local PC, so I'll say localhost. Otherwise you can give any host name or password. Then the username, root, the password used, and the name of the database. This will be created and saved over here. But how will I know that if it was created successfully? For that we have this data member, and we're going to check if it exists. If it does exist, then what it means? It means that there was some error in the database connection. So we'll print that error message out. Save it, go back. When I click on this create button, this part will be run. Hopefully no error. Let's give it an error. I'm going to give a invalid password. Click on the create button and you see we have an error message. This error message can be ignored if the PHP settings are made such. that we want the error messages to be hidden. So script will die over here, but otherwise script will continue, and for the continued script we have the connection, and that is link. We need now is to create a query. Insert into post, and what are we providing? Post ID will be auto created. We need to give the title, the date, and the content. So post underscore title, post underscore date, and post underscore content. The values for these title will go here, so title will be retrieved from post underscore title. For the date part, we can simply use this method. Concatenation is required. And for the last part, we have post underscore content. So we have the query available. Before running this query, let's print it out so that we show that everything is safely added. Visit this page again. First page, the content goes here. Created a, and we have an error. What is the error? Of course, I need to give the right password now. Let's reload it, and yes, this command will be saved. First date, this, maybe this is wrong, so we will give it a small m. Save it now, go back, refresh. Now everything looks fine. Okay, so now we won't echo this line, we will just insert it. How to insert it? We'll use the link we created above, and link has a method named query, and this method accepts any SQL query, so we'll give this as a object, and it will return the result. In case of insert, update, and delete, the result returned is basically number of rows affected. So I can say that if is greater than 0, and we are unable to post it. And at the end, don't forget to close that connection also. Save it. Let's go back. This is our data as created, and it says that posted successfully. Go over here and select it, and yes, it is telling us that first was inserted automatically. We didn't provide it. This was given, and the content goes over here. So hopefully this tutorial did help you a lot in the most simplest way of inserting data in databases.